Welcome back to the Cyber Risk TV live stream for Octane 2024 at Caesars Forum in Las Vegas. I'm your host, Mandy Logan, and today I'm joined by David Bradbury, who is the Chief Security Officer at Okta. And today we are talking about staying ahead of identity threats. David, welcome.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
I am so glad that you are here, and I personally am exceedingly happy to be at Octane and to see such a profound event focused on what Okta brings. I am very curious, even with the discussion here, staying ahead of identity threats, is that feasible?
That's a great question. I think before I answer, I love the atmosphere here at Octane this year.
Yeah.
And it's been fascinating to see, I think, that the evolution of the membership of this group over the past couple of years, that, you know, Okta was born out of the idea of let's make identity easy. Mm-hmm. And it was really a sort of a new thing in the past few years that actually we have a really big role to play in the security side of things. So it was fascinating for me to see that yesterday our executive summit was hosted with more than half the representatives being CISOs, which a decade ago, that definitely was not the case. So it's fascinating to
really
see. Yeah, it's great to see that so many security people now think that identity is that important.
Well, I am glad to see your observation on that, and yet coming from more of the security side, it seems intrinsically simple that, of course, security practitioners would be absolutely fascinated by keeping identity across all of the bots, all of the platforms, all the devices, all of the workflows, everything that has to be done. To me, it seems basic that security should be completely focused on identity.
Absolutely. I think that's the realization that so many people have had over the past couple of years, that you cannot have security without identity.
No.
And so I love the fact that now we're seeing the representatives at Octane being so security heavy, and that's just fantastic. But keeping ahead of identity threats, this is always going to be a challenge. How do we actually do that as a company, and how do we make sure that we can use our powers for good across all of our customers? This has been something we've been really thinking hard on over the past 12 months is, how do we stay one step ahead of identity-based attacks? How can we make sure that we're not just reacting in the moment, that we're waiting for something to happen and then we look at it and then we try to solve? How can we actually start to think about our partnerships with some of the industry leaders like Google and Mandy and CrowdStrike, and actually leverage their intelligence and their understandings of what's happening over the horizon, and then start to make sure that we're thinking about how we can make changes to our products that actually prevent these things from happening. And that's been the really big shift for us as a company in the last 12 months, has gone from really that reactive approach of waiting and then reacting and responding, to really being on the front foot and being thoughtful about what's happening next, and making sure we're thinking about how do we prevent attacks from happening, but more appropriately, how do we make sure that we're taking a stronger role in protecting our customers and making sure that we are sometimes having to make decisions that are in their best interest from a security perspective, and not just allowing them to have to think about this and worry about this on their own. So this has been a big year for us.
That's fantastic. It does sound like it, and it's so beautiful to see the partnering, like myself, looking into what has gone on with Okta and Zscaler, or like you mentioned, Okta and CrowdStrike, or Clear, or being able to see these specific partnerships that really, what has been some of your feedback from clients, and from even, do you get feedback from end users on seeing the impact that those partnerships have made?
Particularly the CrowdStrike partnership has just been so wonderful for us over the past 12 months. One thing that I think gets lost a lot when we talk about partnerships and integrations between technology companies is we seem to talk in just raw numbers of how many things do you integrate with. And we actually fail to understand the depth of the integrations that are sometimes behind the scenes. So as Okta is the leading independent, neutral identity provider, that allows us to be unbelievably partnered with folks like CrowdStrike. And it's the depth of that partnership which has really been producing benefits. So if I dial back the clock back to December of last year, the OpenID Foundation came out with their shared signals framework. This idea that we should be able to share risk signals between technology companies without having to rely upon individual customers to try and do this themselves. And over the past 10 months, CrowdStrike and ourselves have implemented that protocol so that when you log in with Okta, and if you are using CrowdStrike, we're now leveraging them in real time to make an assessment of the security of your device. And that absolutely is at the core of making zero trust a reality. It's secure identity, it's secure devices, and it's being able to make decisions about where you are and whether you're the right person who should have that right access at the right time. And we're now seeing that as a reality. So the feedback that I get from customers, particularly around that specific integration, is just that it has unlocked their security architecture. It is delivering on things that they didn't think were possible years ago. And that's the reality that we're in today. And as the shared signals framework is more widely adopted, this is only going to strengthen how well we can deliver on zero trust for our customers.
Now, with that, can you give me just a ballpark of what percentage of impact you think that adoption would have on staying ahead of identity threats?
It's a great question. So if I think about the ways that attacks are being performed today against our customers, particularly if you think about info stealer malware, being able to steal passwords off somebody's device, if they've accidentally visited a link and they've somehow been able to download software. And I think about the effectiveness of CrowdStrike and being able to prevent those attacks. But let's think about that attack has just happened, and you are currently logged into 10 different applications. And so there's a window of opportunity where that threat actor could take a cookie or take your username and password and access those applications in real time.
So we've moved to post-authentication attacks.
Exactly. So
right.
This is where I really see the benefit here. So from a percentage perspective of being able to prevent these sorts of attacks, as we get better at sharing these risk signals, and as we get better with implementing single logout across all of these applications, in the instance where this happens, CrowdStrike immediately tells Okta, and then we tell all of the applications that you need to log out, you need to log out, you need to log out. And so if we can get the ecosystem to implement this across the board, it just eliminates that window of opportunity. So right now, I think that window of opportunity still is there, but we're slowly eating at it. And with every passing month, we have more people coming to the table with implementing the shared signals framework, and that's just going to continue to make it harder for attackers to be successful.
Okay, I want to go back to what you said there, because how fantastic is it to be the security team, to be the corporate, the C-suite, whatever, but go, oh, we had this intel, and now we have successfully revoked permission to thousands of access points. Being able to do the single logout, like you mentioned, being able to do something like that. I feel that the ability of the team to have satisfaction is increased, which would increase the morale of the teams. Even though we're talking about the technical side, we've got to go back to the humans are the ones we care about. I'm curious on a statistic that I heard from you that said that across the data from your Okta customer base, that 96% of authentications are phishable, and that only 4% had, I'm guessing maybe YubiKeys, perhaps they were using YubiKeys. With going toward the zero trust strategies that Okta, and that you yourself have really spearheaded and focused on, does it feel that you are able to take some of that burden off of customers who are not currently who still have the phishable authentications?
It's a great question. It's such a challenging area to think about the fact that in this day and age, phishing is still a thing. And sadly, in the last 12 months, we continue to see phishing attacks against our customers continue to rise. And there are a few reasons for that. One is that in the same way that we as a company deliver better products every year, phishing kits are getting better every year.
It's true,
very
sadly
sad.
they evolve.
And if you combine that with the proliferation of data brokers and our ability for people to find my personal address by only with a couple of data clicks, and then add in AI and ChatGPT into the mix, and now we have these personalized, grammatically perfect lures that are being used against people. I mean, phishing is more successful than ever right now for all of these reasons. And so it's exceptionally saddening for me to think that we as an industry have great solutions to prevent these, but they just aren't being adopted. Now, the statistic that you offered just then is actually a statistic from 12 months ago. It is slightly improved.
Oh, has it? Has it? Okay.
It's slightly improved. So we have a report that's come out this week, and we are currently seeing more adoption of Okta's FastPass and also YubiKeys. But we're still seeing it's still in the 90% plus range of all authentications on our platform are vulnerable to phishing. And so it's been interesting this week to chat to other CISOs and other customers and try and figure out what's stopping you. What's stopping you from adopting these technologies? And there are concerns on hardware keys and how difficult they are to deploy and manage. But I think we've done a lot with partnering with YubiKey to make sure that that's as easy as possible. And then on the FastPass side, this is our software product, which takes the burden away from having to deliver hardware keys. And I think on both sides of the spectrum, we have some really good solutions here. But it seems that the companies that have invested already in identity, they're happy with SMS, they're happy with push, and they find that it was a very hard cultural change for them to adopt multi-factor in the first place.
Now, did that matter based on the size of organization, or you just mean across the board?
Very much on the larger side.
Okay.
At larger scale enterprise companies, we're seeing that there's just big resistance culturally to revisiting the MFA discussion. And it's like, no, we already did that.
We did
this
right?
already. We're like, what's wrong with this? Well, this is where we, as a company and as a security industry, need to shine the spotlight more on the fact that what you're doing today isn't enough. And that, as threat actors wake up in the morning thinking, I'm going to target the person that I know I can invest the least amount of calories to be successful, this is where they're focused. They're focused on this broad base of individuals who are yet to adopt phishing-resistant technologies. If I share with you one positive, though, which is
please.
that in our most recent report released this week, where we looked at why is it that people are still using passwords? Are we seeing any great examples across our customer base where they've actually managed to stop using passwords altogether? Again, the word passwordless has been used for years now.
True.
Is it a reality for anyone? And happily it is. And it's not a big number, but it's a start, and it's 5% of all auths on our platform. 5. And so it's a starting point, and it's a proof point that we do have customers, and Okta is an example as well internally. We are wall-to-wall phishing resistant without passwords, but you can have a password-free existence. And so I think if we can somehow try to tie both of these things together, that we can revisit this multi-factor project that we did, that we can actually remove passwords altogether. That, I think, may be the ability for us to really push harder on this one.
That sounds beautiful. And as part of strategizing for what is coming, I always think of this phrase that I've gone through life, that what got you here won't get you there.
Well said.
Correct? But all of these steps have been vitally necessary. So, I mean, kudos. We adore that people have adopted multi-factor authentication at all.
Yes.
And you go, but this is just a step now to what also has to adjust.
Yes.
I am curious in our last minute or so here that since you focus on zero trust adoption for your customers and across all of your partners, what are some of the first steps you would recommend for an organization looking to adopt more zero trust strategies?
So zero trust at its very most fundamental element is about two things. It's about secure identity and secure devices.
Okay.
And then making decisions about the combinations of those two things and whether someone should get access. And so when you're starting your zero trust journey, you need to be really careful about the partners that you choose to help you on both sides of that equation. When you're thinking about secure identity, you want to make sure that you've got somebody who's not just integrated with everything, but has depth of integration. Again, Okta's ability to be vendor neutral opens the door to so many technology companies who aren't fearful of us being a competitor. And so that allows us to go really deep and partner heavily with their engineering teams. But when you think about secure identity, make sure that you're balancing usability and security. Make sure that the company that you're working with is really focused on both of these.
Okay.
And make sure you apply the same on the device side, whether you're partnering with a CrowdStrike, a Zscaler, or Palo Alto, whoever's helping you with your devices and your networks, make sure that you're applying that same methodology. Are they integrated with the right things? And have they prioritized the usability of their product just as much as the security of their product? Get these things right, and you're off to a great start.
Oh, wow. David, I very much appreciate this, and I hope that it has encouraged all of our viewers to look further into the products, the services, the resources that Okta and your partners do bring to organizations today, and to be prepared for the future. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you to our audience for tuning in for this live interview from Octane 2024. To find all of the Cyber Risk TV coverage for this year's event, please visit securityweekly.com/Octane.